thank you for the nice introduction anyway. And yes, my experience goes back almost 30 years, because I started working as a teacher with computers in 1985 in my first and second grade classroom in a small village. And I was reminded by Professor Lebrun's presentation of some basic guidances that framed the work I engaged with technology since my beginning in that classroom. And during his presentation, it came to my mind a quotation by Jerome Bruner from the 60s, where he states that to be effective, a technological tool or organization needs a social counterpart. So every technology has to be framed socially. And I think this is true. This is true for books. This is true for language, which I will refer later on. This is true for what I started with in my classroom with the Frenet's printer workshops. I mean, maybe you are familiar with that idea. And subsequently, kids told me that it would be much easier to do the same job with computers, because when I started with the computers, we were forced by the ministry, in order to participate in a project, we had to do logo with children. So we did logo in mathematics in the second year classroom, but the kids immediately turned my attention to the potential of the technology for replacing the traditional printer workshop with computers, because they thought it would be much easier, much speedier, and so on and so on, and that's what I did. After that, I worked a long time at the ministry. I was head of the task force for the implementation of for technology in primary and secondary education. And as it happened, what was also said during Professor Lebrun's presentation, of course, the whole positive approach to the introduction of information technology into classrooms was annihilated by secondary teachers, because they had a strong lobby and they interfered with our propositions that we made at the time, that's now 15 years back, and they were successful in stopping all the implementation processes we had thought of. After that, I was also responsible and the head of the project for the first electronic platform here at the pedagogical faculty, called Decotech, and I've never stopped really to be interested by technology, and today I want to talk about the latest developments we undertook. In order to do this, I want to frame the concepts, the context for our work, the concepts. What is the project iTEO? What is the methodology? What are the previous results, the preliminary results, and the conclusions we are at the moment? So just a little bit of the background in order that you can understand why we choose the iTEO tool for working in Luxembourgish preschool and primary schools. Here you can see the nationalities of the school at the time being. You see that a large part of the population does not come from a Luxembourgish-speaking background. I leave it to your own to read it. I will not dwell on that. Of course, the Luxembourg school system and society is dedicated to offering equal opportunities to each of these children, each child that is in the official Luxembourg education system. But at the same time, we must admit, and it is obvious that children with migration background do not succeed as well in our system. And I think the OECD is always complaining in its reports about this fact. And we will see now some concepts. Some concepts have been developed. This is true. Everybody agrees that we should foster the language development in the multilingual groups. There are concepts from the ministry. I go very quickly over this because I can focus on our work. These are concepts like ouverture aux langues. But all this is a little bit, diverse, and it's not implemented in a regular way. And these are the projects we have. They are focusing on cooperation with parents and with the children in the specific background. Now, these are the projects we have done in the last, let's say, 15 years. The Decolab project, they are still online with the ministry. This involved long-term efforts with teachers in regular classrooms to develop the competencies. I insist on this because many of these concepts that we used in these projects still are the backbone of our current projects. And all the projects we have done in the past, they were concerned with concepts by Vygotsky and Bachin. This means that language is considered as a social semiotic process. It is communicative in essence. It must involve emotion and cognition. And you see a lot of these things. How are these processes then instantiated in the preschool and primary classroom? In preschool, it's the play, that is the leading activity according to Vygotsky in this area. From that, we have the concept of storying, which is a profound human activity linking all these basic needs and also the basic motivations for creating language in human endeavors. All these things, you see other elements, they come mainly from the Bachinian side of the theoretical input, is the concept of voice, of control, and referring back to my mention of René in the beginning, of course, students should be responsible for their own development, and I think this is a very important criterion. You will see later what I mean by that. This was the original iTEO project. You see a desktop computer with an interface that resulted from our resulted from the previous work originating in the printer workshop. When we did the printer workshop work with the children in primary classrooms, we noticed that when they were writing up their stories, they were talking a lot around the stories. So a lot of oracy went into the production of literacy. And that's where we started to think about the opportunities this would provide in a diverse, multilingual environment as it is present in Luxembourgish schools right from the beginning. So we thought, okay, if we have this language development as it happens in Luxembourg schools, I now tell you that in preschool, Luxembourgish is the target language that has to be mastered by all the students. In the first grade, they will be introduced to literacy in German. So now the focus is on the German language. And at this time being, in February, in the second grade classroom, French starts being taught in oracy. And next year, in the 3rd grade, they will switch to French also in the written mode. So you can see this step-by-step implementation of many diverse languages. So now we thought, as we saw, okay, when we cooperate in the writing workshop, so people might help each other, children might help each other according to their competencies. So better developed written competencies with one child can foster development in another child's written engagement. So we thought, well, but it's in this kind of work, it's always, let's say, the largest population in primary education is the Portuguese section, which are much more prone to the French language. Now in the writing workshop, when we start literacy in German, so they are always on the receiving end. How can we foster the identity and the development of these children when they are always on the receiving end? So we targeted, we looked for something to put them in the giving position, and this was the iTEO project. So we thought, now when it comes to the oracy in French, why shouldn't they help the Luxembourgish kids in the development of their oral French competencies? And that led up to the design of this interface. It's very easy. You will see after with the iPad it's still easier. But here also you have the mic. You click on the mic and you can record. And the record puts an icon. When you click again on the mic, it stops and it puts an icon. So they are, there you can see the numbers on these are the numbers of recording. So I could go on for hours talking about this iTEO program, but the basic fact is the mic. It's the it's the objectification of the oral language, because each icon represents stretches of oral language. Now, if the kids work together on these stories, they know approximately what they have discarded, what they have put there, where are the things. The other important element is the trash bin, because we thought this is a kind of social responsibility. If they decide to record something and to dispose of it, they should put it in the trash bin, and nobody can check what was in the trash. And we introduced this as a model of autonomy, because we think teacher must not know everything about the procedure or the products children did. So they should have an element of freedom and liberty of expression. So, and this is where kids revel in. So often what they did, they were training and practicing oral French language, but maybe not with the words we expected. So they discarded with that. I mean, this is one of the basic principles. Too quick now. Now this is now the iTEO, so we put it on the iPad now, the same application. You can remember, it's the same procedure. You can click and it will record, and it's again an icon that appears. These icons now is transport, but I put another. You can also use now you can use the features of the iPad for creating the backgrounds and also the tiles. You can even put pictures again, and so you see there is an added value on the iTEO app. The added value results from the mobility of the support. That is clear. You are no longer constrained to sitting in front of the desktop computer, which was limiting, which put a limit on the social organization, as I mentioned before. And now you can use, you are mobile, so you can take it to your home and involve your parents, for instance, and this is the kind of work we want to concentrate in the future. The camera, of course, is used here. You have the touch screen and so on. basically, I think I will not now delve into this because I mean, a lot has been said by Mr. Lebrun, Professor Lebrun before. Obviously, this is a social-cultural theoretical background, and we, as I said, we have developed this for the last 20, 25 years, and we think that it offers much more to the Luxembourgish context than traditional ways of transmission of language competencies, because, our focus is on diversity and the valuing of differences. Now, this sounds a little bit out of context with traditional teaching paradigms, I know, but we feel that language development with children in Luxembourgish schools must capitalize on the differences of the individual children. And we would like to use the potential of these differences so that another language will be present. So what we did now, what I want to present briefly to you is a preliminary study we did with this. We have this perspective, the resources of the children are predominant in the storying approach because they create the stories that they want. We want to give a voice to each child. We want to have the languages that are spoken at home, for instance, also to be present in this design. While these are now problematic terminological things. I mean, when you talk about authenticity, you have to define it. I will not go into this now. We want a language to be a collaborative and cooperational moment, and the tool that we use is the storying with the iPad. What do we want to focus on is how teachers are now using the iTEO app in the classroom, and in what ways the use of the iPad, for instance, changes the topography of that classroom and of the work, the language work that happens there. What will then, how will it change or remain the same or something? How do children use the app? Because in the beginning we didn't know if they would be successful with it. How is their storing process developing over a rather short period of time, and what are the strategies they use for working with the iTEO app? So we tested this in a school next to the German border. We had 3 preschool classes, 1 primary school, and we had some focus children that you will see now in the video. And we did videos, we did observations, we had interviews with the kids and with the teachers, and we had, of course, the material that was recorded. So you can see here we have 1 preschool class. There are 33 kids. 2/3 of them have a migration background, and we have 3 teachers in charge of that. This is common standard in Luxembourg for those who are not familiar with our standards. We have 1 child here, is Serena, who doesn't speak Luxembourgish very well. You can often not understand what she says. The vocabulary is rather limited. She does many grammatical mistakes, but she uses, of course, as all reasonable human beings, she uses the gestures and mimics very well. And she's not too confident. So what did these teachers do in order to implement the iTEO app? They used the storying in several ways. They read stories to their children. They took note of the stories of the children by writing them down. So you could go there, talk to the teacher, and she would put the story in written mode. They would comment on the stories, and the kids would act out their stories. This is common practice according to Vivian Gussin-Paley, who did some seminars 15 years ago here in this room, I can remember. and many subsequent work in Luxembourgish preschool has been inspired by her ideas. They used the iTEO on a regular basis. It was not exceptional. It was not a reward to use it, but they tried to do a regular use of the iTEO and of the iPad. They put some structures, but not on the contents. They listened together with the children to all the stories that had been recorded. They commented on them and used also books as supports. Now, what are the progresses we noted with Serena? We noted that she learned to listen to the others and also to herself. You will soon see a video. Here we can see. Here you can see the strategies. Where do I have to enter? No. I'm not used to working with a PC anymore, so I'm a little bit this one. Yeah. Yeah. There. Okay. Thank you.
Looks like the video won't work.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something missing.
QuickTime. You have no QuickTime. Also. So I will tell you what happens on the video. This is a shame, but okay. What you see on the video is that in the beginning of the process, she refused to listen to herself. So she did the recording. They did a recording of what they were talking about, but Serena skipped the process of listening to herself. Immediately when this is the essential feature of the iTEO app and the iTEO, the iTEO software and the iTEO is that when you stop the recording, the replay starts. So you can listen to what you have performed. And this is a process where Serena did not participate in the beginning. She was unable to listen to herself. And I think this was an important process for her to overcome this barrier, because after that she would be able to develop also her languages. I will then go over that, but it's a bit of a shame because this breaks my central part of the presentation. I did not want to dwell now on the preschool, but I wanted to move into primary school. And if we cannot see the video, it will be a little bit difficult. I can just describe it to you, but it will not make the same effect. So here, going back to Serena, what she learned was the importance of listening, which is a very important skill, I think, to be developed. She asked, even in the end, for listening again to certain parts that were recorded, and so on. Now here you can see the other part of the process was the cooperative work they did at the preschool level, where they supported each other in the creation and in the development of the stories. Now she used the support. She could point to the pictures. She could use more gestures, and she could even be a model with some words or parts of sentences, and she could interrupt also whenever she wanted. So she gained a real pleasure for the storying process. And by that way, if she continues to speak, she develops her vocabulary, and also through the replay, to the listening process, to the support by their partners, the pronunciation of the Luxembourgish sentences. Here you have, okay, but that is now, if we cannot look to this makes no sense, where they talk together about. So what is the result of it. We think, and we will develop this research, that the iTEO app is really, through its intuitive way of being used, because I was personally in this classroom, for instance, children, 4 or 5 year olds, whenever something broke down with the iPad, they were eager to show me how I could use the iPad again within 1 minute, and they reset the program and they reset the iPad. So I think it's a lot of confidence using these tools for gaining the insights that I have now told you. So in the, what is much more interesting, what also refers to Professor Lebrun's presentation, is now the work in secondary, in the second grade. In the second grade, you can see here, you know, they are working on the oral French scenario, and you can see they have designed a scenario with 2 au restaurant, where they play how to behave in the restaurant, how to move, how to order things in the restaurant. And I mean, this is common work in Luxembourgish classrooms. Now they are taken out of the regular classrooms in order to practice here with the iTEO app. You see the iTEO on the table. And you must know that the child in the middle, that is Fabienne, she is hearing impaired, and in the regular classroom she needs technological support in order to be able to function as a normal, let's say, student or pupil. The other one is, this is a Luxembourgish kid. The other one is a French pupil, and he provides the authentic, I refer back to that term, input. And this refers to many, many problems now, according to Mr. Lebrun's presentation, because this is the support teacher in that classroom. And she's sitting there, and we are watching this. And my aim was to get her out of that situation. So I had, I will try once again, but if the quick time isn't there for, oh, okay. It's a shame. Anyway. So what we did is I took her out of the scenery, the assistant teacher, because I noticed early on that the assistant teacher was not, I must pay attention now for the wording I choose, not that familiar with authentic French, because it started already when they described the items, or I noticed that she was not very confident about her own capacities in oral authentic French. And that's why I wanted to get her out of that scene, and I took her out. I said to the kids, okay, now I think we are in need of a big cup of coffee, because we are such trained teachers, so we need a cup of coffee, so you manage on your own, yeah. If it doesn't work, so I can. So I took her out, and they started to work. And what happened in this scene is that, of course, they put in authentic language. Like, I give you one example, maybe if the sound will not work either in the end. In the authentic exchange, he says, est-ce que je peux avoir du pain? Oui, voilà du pain. Et la fille dit alors merci. Et lui, il dit de rien. Alors, you see, de rien is a locution that normally is not practiced in regular school work. And now the whole episode, which is really a shame not to see, is how he goes about teaching her this locution, de rien. And he draws on a vast array of teaching strategies, like he's segmenting the utterance, which is one feature we used with the iTEO software a lot, where children, you know, they can, if they cannot say j'ai un camion, they can record it in 3 times. J'ai, Camion, this is 3 records, 3 recordings. But in the end, you will hear one sentence. And I had one experience in logopedic instruction where this changed totally the perception, because in the end, the child heard herself or himself speak a correct sentence for the first time in her life. And that made a tremendous change. So here, it was the same procedure. The, ri, un. Now, un, you know, maybe you have heard about in French, and he refers to that. He said, we saw that last time in the classroom with the teacher, because she had written un on the table. And he goes to the table and he is writing un, and then he says it's like un in arithmetic. And this is the whole vast strategies he goes, and they practice and they practice. And they record and they record, and it is replayed and replayed. So with this mini locution, they spend a whole lot of time of practicing doing this. So, maybe, maybe, no. Well, that was the biggest hit of it, because now, after this practice session, I went back 4 weeks later into this classroom, and I interviewed the children. I showed them this video, and I asked them about how they felt doing this work with the iTEO, and they answered my question. And in the end of it, after 12 minutes, I said, and now you know it? And she says, of course, de rien. And this has showed the resilience of this process, where she puts all her energies, and it's wrong what I'm saying, you know, I'm a teacher, so I always think I am doing it. But this shows the resilience of this collaborative endeavor, where they can refer back to episodes where they have learned authentic French. And this is what we want to discover more in the future, and that's why we will continue work in these things. So I will just then summarize what are also my opinions and what are my needs in this research process. Is we think that the development of language in the complex social, cultural, Luxembourgish context is a dialectical process of internalization and externalization through the transformation of what is produced. So this is very compact, I agree, but I feel that from what I have said, you can sense what I am intending. I skip all the rest. I think the transformation is the most important thing, and it's very important in Luxembourg, where I think we should transform a lot. Also, as became transparent to Mr. Lebrun's factor. And we also what we want to do much more in detail is to understand these strategies and also how they are developing the metacognitive functions that allow them to reflect on their use of language and on their concepts. Now, many things of what I say do not comply with traditional views on language. We know this, but we want to establish tensions, because without tensions, without differences, there is no responsibility. We think that children should work on sequences that are not always prepared, but that they develop in the situation with the semiotic mediational means at their hands, that then they should be in a position through the replay of the iTEO app to interpret, to renegotiate the ongoing discourse, and that, of course, what you couldn't see this now on because the video did not work. There's a lot of co- and sub-vocalizing going on when they collaborate. This is one of my findings from previous studies is that these co-vocalizing, sub-vocalizing in the team support the language production process. The storying is, of course, our tool. And I mean, I like, because, you know, what I complain most about in education is the lack of historicity. So I think all I'm telling you now is built on my personal experience, historical experience over the last 35 years as a teacher. So I want to refer back to concepts like Freiné's tâtonnement expérimental, which I think is a brilliant idea, and if applied to other areas as language, then the Luxembourgish socio-cultural context is an ideal context for this tâtonnement. And if you structure it or frame it by dialogue, by cooperation, by negotiational and transformational processes, then you are at the core of essential language development. And this development, inevitably, it happens through endless variations and also repetitions. So this is what, and I will finish with this is now basic, let's say, linguistic research happening, and I'll finish with that. What interests me is now tracing the tool. What exactly is the tool doing? And in doing so, I think we should refer to different theoretical backgrounds. And I chose one of it is actor network theory, where I think that the conception that all like cognitive processes like language development are solely in the mind of the individual speakers or even of the groups does not portray the whole reality, because I think language production without the iTEO tool or iTEO software or the iTEO app would be different. And I want to trace what makes this difference. What is the role and function of the iTEO app and the iPad and formerly the iTEO tool. And I think this will enable us to understand the value of such work in this heterogeneous Luxembourgish context. Thank you.